in all of my efforts of going out there trying to, you know, do all this stuff. But then I started listening to people and clients of mine that would say, well, I really need help with this. And it was a nuts and bolts kind of thing. It was the practical part of the business, not the leadership per se. And so I pivoted again and
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Right Room. I'm Jane Parmel.
And I'm Celeste DeCamps, and we are we're reopening the right room.
Ooh.
We decided to try a little bit something different, more focused and more solution oriented.
Right. Each episode that we're going to be doing is going to be a story, a strategy, and a step that you can take to make a change in your business, to make a change in your life, to make a change that will really impact something moving forward, a moment that mattered, a move to change things, and one action that you can use, you, everybody out there, can use this week.
And real
So,
quick, Jane, remind everybody what it is you do.
what I do, I am a profit growth strategist. I help people bring more profit into their business, help them keep more money in their pocket by controlling cash flow chaos. And Celeste, what do you do?
I'm a I'm a communication coach. I help people with their presentation skills, interviewing, networking, your lunch and learns, your sales pitch, your customer service. It's all effective communication.
Sounds good to me. So let me ask you a question. Sounds like you could have a lot of content and things that people can use. I know I do. We could pump out content all day, but sometimes the calendar just doesn't reflect everything that it could. You ever have that issue, Celeste?
Oh, sure. With all of the research and expertise that I bring to the table, it doesn't necessarily mean that people even know who I am or that I exist.
Exactly. It's sad, but it's true. I know it happens. But we want you to leave here today with some idea of a system, something that'll change the way you work. So we've brought in Laura Wagenknecht. She is stepping into the right room right now. So welcome, Laura.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for coming, Laura. We really appreciate this.
great to be here. Thank you so much.
I was just gonna say, Mosaic Business Consulting is what you do, right? Is that your business?
That is
What
my
do you
business.
who do you serve?
I serve women and people of color, but basically marginalized populations that are frankly getting the short shrift. They are not getting access to as many resources, services, or funding as white men. And so my determination is for these businesses to succeed more effectively without making as many mistakes as I did.
Sure that there have been challenges in your own business. And as we were discussing, did you find a challenge with getting eyes on your business?
Yes, it's so funny because they talk about knowing your pitch and things like that. And so initially, I went to all these networking meetings and I was a leadership coach. I had gotten my certification in executive leadership. I'm a former CEO. So I thought, this is easy. This is going to be so easy to get people to come on over. I got all the skills, I got all the knowledge, I'm good to go. Well, it didn't quite work out that way. I literally would go to a meeting and I'd say, "Hi, I'm, Laura, and then this is kind of what I do. And, if you're struggling with, some leadership stuff, that's kind of like what I do. So I can help." That was pretty bad. And so people didn't really know what I did. And initially, I was helping everybody. And the second iteration to my business was, oh, I really want to focus on women because I've been that single woman in the boardroom with only men, and that's uncomfy. And then the idea that I then thought, well, women who are new to leadership, that's what I really need to focus on. It didn't matter. I was so vague in my approach that crickets. That's what I heard. Crickets. So I got zero business in all of my efforts of going out there trying to, you know, do all this stuff. But then I started listening to people and clients of mine that would say, well, I really need help with this. And it was a nuts and bolts kind of thing. It was the practical part of the business, not the leadership per se. And so I pivoted again and started helping people with their businesses. And in particular, people would want funding and didn't know how to write the business plan. And I had struggled myself with writing the business plan. It is a daunting document and has so many different parts to it. So anyway, I shifted my business once again, and now I'm pretty well known, I think, for X, and that X is writing a business plan.
Okay, so then how did people start to figure that out? Did that become simply word of mouth? Was it something you specifically advertised?
It's interesting you say that. I actually didn't have to advertise too much. I started out, and here's what I would encourage people to do, is to really connect locally. What a lot of people don't do anymore is they think, oh, if I put something on social media, they'll all know me. No, it goes to the folks you know. And the folks you know aren't going to buy from you. They're your family, your friends, right? So the intent is to change the conversation to people who don't know you, to get to know you, and to get to know you for whatever it is you do and you specialize in. So I started networking much more aggressively, got out there, and started working with some local nonprofits to help them with their clients. And that combination enabled me to have a consistent pipeline of lower paying, much lower paying, like didn't even cover my costs kind of paying, but got me known for what I do. And over time, things have shifted to the point where now I get phone calls out of the blue from folks who say, I just was at my pickleball and I was asking if anybody knew of someone who would write a business plan on my behalf. And they all said you. And I was like, okay. So that was cool. I'm not doing any advertising in that regard. I'm simply being me, and I'm doing what I do and do well. So that's just one item that I do, but
That, I mean, that word of mouth is always so it's critical. It really is. And the funny part about it is, like, when you started saying it in the beginning, I think of all the things that they tell you at the professional networking groups where they say, when you go out there and you say anybody, somebody, everybody, that's exactly what you're going to get. Nobody. Because
exactly.
they're not going to
Exactly.
hear you. So when you said you started to focus your message, you honed your message a little bit better. And when you went to the networking events, did you notice a change
Oh yeah.
in, like, I guess, the quality of who was listening to you, or were people listening to you? And what did you notice? What
Well,
was
it's funny because I think one of the things that you also do when you go to networking meetings and you hear the person say the same thing they said last week, people tune them out. So what they always liked about me, and I would captivate their attention, is every single time I would be different. But ultimately, the message was the same. So in other words, people have different pain points around the same issue. So they can't write the business plan. What is it about the business plan? It might be too daunting. So that's one issue that I would address in the pitch. The second issue I might address is they need money fast. Well, I could also talk to them about what that process would look like. So then it's like I can provide these different solutions to different problems, but I'm really dealing with the business plan element the whole time. And so if they need funding that is aimed, let's say, at a loan, that's going to be written one way. If they're aiming it towards an audience that's a venture capitalist, that's going to be investor, that's written a different way. And then you also have to have an additional slide deck that you don't need for a loan. So there are different elements to a business plan that I could target, but the key is that I'm solving a problem. Every single time, I'm not telling them, here's the problem, good luck. I'm saying, here's your problem, I get it. I'm totally with you. I didn't know how to write a business plan when I started. I had to explore, I had to investigate, I had to research. And over time, I was able to really develop a format and a formula that seems to be really effective in telling the story of a business. And once you get into that, you're golden. And so then I could just send that message, but it didn't have to be the same message every time. So I might start with a question. I might say, imagine, or I might say, imagine you were a business owner and you needed money yesterday. How would you go about it? And then I would talk to them about things. Or I might say, what does it feel like when you don't really have your message clearly articulated? What can you do? And then I'd go into my message, right? So there are solutions, but tackling different problems. I hope that makes sense, but
Oh, no, completely. And I think it's great to have a conversation with people. I think too many times people go into a networking event with their memorized elevator pitch and not just simply have a conversation.
yeah,
And I like that you ask the questions like, is this something you're dealing with? Because that is a hook in itself
yeah,
to garner engagement and let the other person know, no, I really care about where you're at
yeah,
and talk
mhm,
to me about it.
yeah,
And then to be able to come in and say, I can help you. That's huge.
absolutely.
I think that that's what many people miss in their networking and even in their content creation for social media. I think you're not having that simple conversation.
Well, and
So
it's
was
hard to have conversation on social media, don't you
yeah,
think? Because conversation in social media is not conversant. It is somebody saying, typing something, and then somebody typing something back. So one of the reasons that I always have this consultation initially to meet with people is to figure out if it's a good fit. Because if I'm not the right person, I still want them to be successful. So I want to make sure I'm referring them to the right source. It's not appropriate for me to say I'm good for everybody. I'm not. We're never all good for everybody. And that goes back to what you were saying, Jane. We can't be everything to everyone. We
And
aren't. Yeah,
I'm listening to you both, and I'm saying to myself, well, don't want to step on the communication coach's toes, but I've always said this, and she's the first one that said it to me, is you listen. If you're in a conversation with somebody, even if you're just going out and you're doing your elevator pitch or your 60-second or whatever it is, 30 seconds, some places you just have enough time to introduce yourselves. The fact that you have other conversations that come off of that spin off of that first introduction, and that you listen. I love the fact that you said, I may not fit this person may not be the fit. I might not be the solution for them, but I can get them to where they have to go. That to
yeah,
me, I think is the sign of a really good consultant, coach, someone, a leader. That I laugh when you say, about being in leadership, being in networking, being in all these things. You have to really be a listener, that somebody that can communicate well and actually sacrifice yourself at a certain point and not get the business to help improve the person in front of you. So,
absolutely.
Celeste, you have another question for Laura?
Well, I was
well,
just thinking it's also about the beginning, knowing your beginning and end,
Right.
knowing where you begin and end in your business, what you can and cannot do is advantageous. Like, I'm not going to implement marketing for you. So sorry. Go
Mhm.
somewhere else. I have many referrals that are perfect. depending on what you need. And, you know, if you need a certain website platform, well, I know somebody who does Wix, and I know somebody else who does Squarespace, and I know someone else who does WordPress. So it's
You
all
got it all.
about making,
Yeah.
and that's the other part is
Mhm.
all these people you meet are ways of partnering with people. It's not a competition.
Right.
It's a collaboration. And the more you refer out, the more friends you make too.
Exactly.
So
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I was going to just bring up that point. As soon as you said that you would refer them to somebody else, that's what real networking is.
yeah.
And I'm so glad that you brought it up that way, because I've tried to explain to people, you can't just go into a networking event and have it all be about you. If you aren't making connections and talking to people and listening to what they do, and really make those connections so that it's a real
Really listening.
referral type of networking,
Yeah.
you're missing out. And I've been
Mhm.
to so many of those where somebody gives me their pitch and they're on to the next person to give their pitch. I'm thinking, well, I might be able to use you, but you've already left me. And we didn't get to develop anything.
Right. Yeah.
And so that I think
Mm.
that is an amazing part of understanding what real networking is. And you
Well,
explained it beautifully.
that's the therapist in me. So former therapist, former CEO, I know it's a weird combo, and
No.
former assistant professor. So there's a teaching part of me, there's a consistent learning part in me. And that lends itself to curiosity, which then makes you a good coach, because then you can say, well, I hear this, but what about this? Or you're saying this, but you want to go there. How are we going to make that work? Let's talk through that, right? Let me understand more. And so I think it really comes down to the more you listen, the better it is, the easier it is to work with somebody. So
Definitely. Definitely. Well, listen, we're going to get to the point now where we are talking about room service because we're in the right room. So we have a little segment
okay.
called room service. And we
Okay.
really want you to think about one action that our listeners can take in the next 48 hours, week. What's one step that someone can take to go from, maybe being all over the place and not having that focus to making a simple change that might make a very big change when they present themselves?
Wow, that's a biggie. So first of all, great question. I we were talking about networking, but we're also talking about how to position your business. And it's really about getting known for X. And the problem I had is I had myriad skills that I wanted people to know. So my solution for folks is pick one. So if I want to get known for business planning, which I really didn't, but alas, here I am, I would encourage people to think about, how do you get known for X? Yes, you do all this other stuff, right? I do a whole bunch of other stuff. But do I want to get known for something? Yes, because then people will send a pipeline of people to you. Until you're known for X, people don't know what you do. So get known for that X, whatever that X is. And it doesn't mean it's all of you. It means it's the thing that gives people the entree to who you are and your business. Does
And I
that
think
help?
that's difficult for a lot of people who
Mhm.
do feel like they're everything for everybody. What would be a suggestion for somebody who needs to figure out what is that one thing? Like, was there a process for you that
Yeah.
really could help people filter that down?
Yeah, that's a toughie because I still struggle at times because I don't want to be known for somebody who does just business planning.
Right.
Good Lord, I've written hundreds of them. I am so tired of business planning. However, I know what I'm doing, right? That I can explain to people allows me to help a person build their business. But when I think about what they want to be known for, they have to decide I would say, what's your lowest hanging fruit? What is the easiest thing that you can do that people can know that you do and allows people that entree into your business? Because if you can articulate that one thing, then people will get to know you and say, oh, she does this, he does that, blah, blah, blah. But also encourage you to then expand off of that inch by inch. So it doesn't have to be that this is the only thing I do. But I have to get known for that. So it's about asking yourself the one question, which is, what am I really good at that I can share with others? What is it that I'm trying to do? Right? Because there's a difference potentially. If I'm trying to sell a product, it's going to look different than I'm trying to sell a service. And so looking at what is it that I do really well? What can I get known for that I'm okay with getting known for?
That's something that, to do that process, what would help? Is it talking to other people who know what you do? Is it
It's actually talking to
trying to
your friends
somehow
and colleagues that don't know what you do, that say, I love you, Laura, but
What do you
I
do?
don't know what you do. And can I just offer, like, this was the slap in the face that I got. I actually did have a colleague umpteen years ago who said to me, who I noticed had partnered with someone else about leadership. And I just thought, girlfriend, what up? Why are you not chatting with me? Hello. And sure enough, she said, I didn't know that's really what you did. And so my message was so garbled. That's what I'm saying. So it was a slap in the face, but it was a great wake-up call. And it was a way to say, so clearly that's not working. What is my message going to be? Right. And picking something. And again, it's not necessarily something you want to do 100% all the time, but if you can get in the door and get people to open that door and put their foot in, put their toe in the water and get to know you, then that's your opportunity to build.
Great advice.
Yeah.
And because we are called the right room, what does that mean to you to be in the right room? What does that bring up for you?
Well, for me, it means that I am not the brainiac in the room. I'm one of many people who have different skill sets that can lend themselves to one another and knowledge bases that can lend themselves. So I love being in rooms with other people who can help me perceive things differently or learn new information, learn new ideas. Again, it goes back to that constant, I like to learn, I like to grow, and being open to that. And then I don't have to be the smartest. I'm certainly not, but the idea of being around these brilliant people like yourselves allows me to learn and grow, and I can get a nugget from you and I can get a nugget from you, and that helps me to build on my business more effectively. So
That to me is so important because
yeah.
I think, my father used to tease me and say, you could be a professional student. I think he just didn't want to pay for college anymore. But it was just a question of, I have taken, and I've said this, if you could see my office, I have book on top of book and file on top of file and binders filled with information and all the courses I've taken myself, and then all of the people I've met along the way, that you take a little snippet of everybody, and that really becomes the mosaic of who I am. you know, who you are and what you can bring to the business. So I guess my last thing would be, is there anything that um Laura, we would like to put out there so that people know a line they'll remember from you, like something that your mantra, that's something that you go to, that keeps you grounded or keeps you moving forward, and keeps you
Yeah.
inspired. Let's put it that way. Keeps you inspired.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I was the CEO, I would say, this too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. That was my mantra, you know.
That's
It
everybody's
was like,
mantra.
it was one, you know, one firestorm after another a lot of the time. But I would say right now it's actually not a mantra, it's more of a focus that when I'm working with, excuse me, when I'm working with clients, I'm reminded about my passion, why I do what I do. And if I'm reminded of my why, I can stay focused. I can get past the tough times. I can push through X, Y, or Z. And so to me, it's really about staying in my why and knowing that I'm having a positive impact, um and being feeling, I guess for me, it's also about knowing I'm contributing, and I feel honored that people share all that with me. Yeah.
That's great. That's perfect. And we are going to put in all of your contact information, but everybody does have a preferred way. Do you have a preferred way that you would like people to reach out to you?
Sure. If they want to reach out via email, that's probably the best way. So I can start a conversation that way, or find out what they want, and then set things up from there. So it's Laura, Laura, at Mosaic, Mosaic, business consulting, ing.com.
Okay, well, we'll have that in the
Yeah, yeah.
in our notes for you, but I like to be able to at least let everybody know that that would be the best way to get you. So we
Yeah.
get everybody
Yeah.
right to you.
Great, great.
Sounds good. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being in the right room today. We love your take on
Thank you.
everything, and love the focus. And just remember, if you're thinking about the positive, just like Laura said, if you're thinking about the positive outcome that you can make, it could actually change your income. So think
Yeah.
about
And we appreciate the actionable steps.
it.
Oh,
It's nice to
absolutely.
have somebody come up with a real solution that you can put together right now. And I think great advice about networking and making it a real listening session and
Yeah.
building relationships.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, and you're welcome on anytime again.